Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I talked to Josh Ferri, craftsman, woodworker, and owner of Garage Shop Designs. We talk about his recent move to the Twin Cities, what led him to his career path as a Jewish carpenter, and the debate behind using technology in creating his finished pieces on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Josh Ferri, welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So you are a relatively new Minnesotan. You moved here about 6 months ago. What was it that brought you to Minnesota, and where did you come here from?
Well, my wife Sydney is from here, so we always kind of talked about moving back here because her whole family is here. She's very close with her mother and her sister and everyone. So it was kind of always assumed we would, and basically quarantine kind of sped that up a little bit, especially with everybody having to work from home, because my parents actually moved as well. They've always talked about moving out of Illinois for a plethora of reasons, and it kind of just sped that up, and so it wasn't just me who moved here, it was also my family. And yeah, woodworking scene's better here.
There's a big woodworking scene?
Yeah, it's there's
really
a lot more woodworkers in Minnesota. That's not the reason I moved. In fact, that would probably create more competition for me. But it's easier access to lumber, lots more, community spaces, lots more things like that.
Okay, so you moved here from Illinois. Were
Yeah.
you the Chicago area?
Yeah, northern
Okay.
suburbs, Deerfield. Is where
Okay.
I was born and raised, and moved here. And in fact, my sister went to the U here, so Minnesota has always been kind of in the background.
Oh, fascinating. So your parents moved here as well, then?
Yeah.
Wow.
And my
Okay.
sister.
And your sister. So the whole family relocated here to where your wife's family's from.
She moved because she's actually doing her final year of veterinary school at the U. So
Okay.
she was going to do that no matter what. My parents weren't really sure if they were going to move for another couple of years. My dad wanted to make sure that his business could do okay, working. He is, for as long as I've known him, which is my whole life, he has always worked from home, but he actually had employees come to the house and work at the house. He has a software business, and when quarantine happened, he found out that it was a lot easier to have them work remotely. So he just sped up that timeline, and they moved here.
Well, that's the beauty of a business like that. You can do it from anywhere.
Exactly.
So you mentioned your business, which is woodworking, which you could also do from anywhere. How did you get into the business?
That is a very interesting question. There's a long story and a short story. The medium story is I studied graphic design, art, advertising, and marketing in school. And one of the the prereqs and all the required things that we had to take. One of them was a 3D design class, and one of the projects we had to do was you had to do it out of wood, and I like to say I just basically got the bug. I found I really liked it. I've always had a knack for working with my hands. When I was really young, I used to like to just take apart my dad's old computers just for fun. And spare time, I was in the wood shop during open hours. And when I got home from school, I just, kind of started growing the hobby, buying a tool here, a tool there, and kind of growing it as much as I could. And then eventually, doing little projects for friends. And eventually it got to the point where I was looking at my W-2 for my job and the amount that I was making from woodworking. And I was like, well, I'm making more woodworking. So
think of how much better, how much more you could make if you were devoting all your time to it.
Exactly. So that's what I did. I kind of jumped off the deep end, and it's been kind of skyrocketing from there.
How did your dad feel about you taking apart his computers? Hopefully there were ones he wasn't in the middle of using.
Yeah, no, he wasn't using them anymore.
Okay,
He
good.
was like, have at it. We're going to recycle them anyways. So do your thing, and then we'll do it. I think he always encouraged it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So you are now in your shop, which is
Mm-hmm.
the basement of your parents' house, nicely
Yeah.
insulated
Yes.
for sound and everything.
Oh yeah.
What type of pieces do you work on?
That is also an interesting question. There are a lot of woodworkers who do, only tables or only cabinetry or only decks or whatever, and we pretty much do everything. If you need it, we make it. We have a CNC machine that can pretty much, mill up anything and cut out anything. Um, and I've always been bouncing around in different projects, liking to try out this, try out that. So I've kind of built a shop that can do a little bit of everything, including welding and making metal table legs and stuff. Um, so really, what I like to tell my clients is, if you're not sure if we do it, ask. We probably do. If we don't, we'll direct you in the right. We'll show you the right direction or who to call. So, for instance, what it's really turning into is mostly during the winter, it's furniture and cabinetry, and then
Mhm.
during the summer, it's big decks and small decks, big decks, whatever. A little more outdoor projects. Not as much like patios, mostly wood and composite decks.
Okay. That's got to be the hard thing about moving to Minnesota. It's great that the family's here, but on the other hand, the outdoor season is a lot shorter.
Yes and no. The outdoor season for me is pretty much April to October, and it was the same thing in Chicago. So
I suppose.
yeah, it wasn't too much different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a particular, I was looking at your website, it's garageshopdesigns.com.
Okay.
Uh, some really cool pieces on there and your Instagram also. Is there anything in particular that you really like doing? Is there what do you consider like your specialty?
Right now, I think the specialty is really turning into very custom cabinetry. Stuff that like just IKEA can't handle. Like it's too unique for the space or something. So it needs kind of more of a custom touch. Um, but I would say, there's nothing that is super special right now because things change with the trends. You
Hmm.
know, everyone wants shiplap or everybody wants, slab tables, tree slabs and stuff. So it's really just anything unique that we can get our hands on. You know, Woodworkers are very unique, and everybody can make a cabinet, but not everybody can fit a cabinet into a very particular space. Um, especially if, for instance, you're fitting a cabinet underneath a stairway or anything like that, and that's kind of where the CNC comes in, which allows us to cut any angle and very precise cabinetry.
What does CNC stand for?
That is a good question. I can't remember. Um,
Excellent.
I I like to call it the completely neurotic computer because when it's bad, but when it's good, it's really good. It can be difficult to use, and if a problem happens, it's almost always user error.
Okay.
So figuring out what that is it can be tough.
Okay. That's fair.
But I couldn't tell you. I can look it up.
No, it's okay. I was just curious if you knew offhand, but I think it might be
Computerized numerical control.
okay.
Yeah. So
Oh,
basically,
so it's CNC. I thought it was C and C.
oh no, CNC,
Okay.
CNC. It basically reads a G code, a coded program that you come up with on the design software to know how deep to go, how long to go, how fast to go, stuff like
Okay.
that as it's cutting through material.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it obviously it probably makes things, move quicker when you
Yes.
have like the computerized help, but is there, you know, do you still enjoy like the sort of more old-fashioned all by hand,
Yeah. There is. There
grit
is
that goes into it?
absolutely. There is a there. I'm a part of a bunch of woodworking groups on Facebook, and I'm not super active as far as posting goes, but I'm super active as far as just following what's going on. There's a lot of people who say, "Well, if you're using a CNC, it's not woodworking; it's just manufacturing." Totally disagree. Am I working? Yes. Is it with wood? Yes. Woodworking. Done. That's all you have. That's all you have. Like, woodworking. Done. Um, it. The way I see it is, if I was to sit here and make cabinets by hand, I could do one kitchen in the time it takes me to do two. It's not sustainable,
Right.
especially with the cost of lumber, especially with the demand. I mean, the during the pandemic, I mean, everybody and their mother needs something. So we're booked out through July right now,
Wow.
um,
That's
and
awesome.
I get 1 to 2 calls pretty much every week. Um, there are days where all of a sudden I'll get like 6 emails and 2 calls, and they'll be like, "I saw the post on Mamala's. I got to know what we need this." Um, so what the way I see it is, woodworking in general, working with your hands, trades, being able to do that stuff. It is a dying art. There's no trade. There's almost no trades in schools anymore.
No.
Lots of people look down on the trades, which is silly to me. And if I want to keep this tradition alive, it has to grow with the times. And the times are lasers, CNCs, and everything else. However, if you walk into my shop, you can do everything that you want without ever touching that machine. We
Okay.
have all traditional tools. We even have hand tools. I have hand tools that are from England from the 1800s. I look for those in craft fairs and other things. I mean, everything about this could allow me to do it all by hand. And yeah, there's some fun in that, and I do enjoy doing that. But that is not what really brings money into the door as far as a steady income. I know guys who do, for instance, I literally know them who do 2 staircases a year, almost all traditional work, and they make a tremendous amount of money, but they can only do 2 staircases a year.
Right.
The amount of time, the amount of craftsmanship, it is absolutely beautiful. Could I do that? No, probably not. But that's not the business that I'm in.
Right. And I would think, like you said, it's not just you could do two kitchens in the time with the CNC and the time it would take you to do one
Right.
by hand, but also I would think you'd have to charge significantly more
Right.
by
Yeah.
hand, just because it takes you that much longer. It becomes that
Oh, yeah.
much more expensive a project.
And it's that much more time. It's more wear and tear on all the different tools versus this one tool.
Mhm.
It's more, it's everything. But in the making of a kitchen or cabinets, almost every tool gets used.
Sure.
It's just not as much as, whatever. I still use the table saw. I still use the bandsaw. I still use my drills and my vacuums and my sanders and blah, blah, blah. But to me, the finished product is what matters, not how it's made. And I am not sitting here making things out of, the cheap materials that they're made from, from IKEA and stuff. We're making them, using cabinet grade hardwoods with no VOCs and no formaldehyde glue. So it's better for the home. It's better for that. We're using, low VOC water-based paints so that they're not off-gassing in your home and stuff like that. So a lot of people come to us for that stuff also, where they're like, I don't just want to add to a landfill. I want something that's going to last a long time. And that's another thing I tell my clients is, God forbid your house ever blows up, the cabinets will still be there. We build them really tough.
Okay, so you mentioned materials. What are the most common materials that you work with? Like, I mean, because I'm a layman on these things. I look at your Insta feed and I see wood, I see metal.
Yeah.
I can't differentiate because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
And I wish I had. If I knew we were doing this like in a week, I would have thrown every picture I could possibly throw up on the website. The website is a little out of date because basically I get referred. Almost all my business is referral. I don't spend a dime on advertising. So most of the time people aren't even checking my website because they heard from somebody that I do this and they're like, let's do it. Like if this person trusts you, I trust you. Like, show me a picture of a cabinet you did. I'll text them a picture of a cabinet I did. Boom, done. So I've got to get better at the website. But The materials that we use mostly, I would say, are plywood, cabinet grade plywoods, MDFs, which is MDF is medium density fiberboard. It's like a composite material of compressed sawdust. And that's really good for saving clients a little bit of money, but also it's really great when you're painting it. Why cover up nice wood when you're going to paint it? But there are some pros and cons to MDF. It's basically a sponge, so you don't want to put it in like bathrooms and stuff.
Sure.
But other than that, it really just depends on the project. Obviously, hardwoods, pine is not a hardwood, but pine, oak, walnut, maple are probably our 4 most used things, then followed by like cherry.
Okay.
I think the craze right now, a lot of people are painting kitchens. It's painted cabinets are really what's in right now. And I find it so funny because I grew up in a house where nobody really wanted to paint wood. They wanted to see the wood. They wanted to,
right.
Whatever. But as far as matching to a home goes, when you have all these different contrasting woods, people don't really like that.
No, it gets hard. We went through that. It's
and Instagram's a big TikTok, Pinterest. Those are all big drivers of trends. So people see all these influencers painting their kitchen white, and they're like, I gotta have a white kitchen. I have to. So there we go. It's a lot of white kitchens. Oh, and we also use a lot of poplar. It's like a great paint grade softwood. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's great for painting.
I guess, how do you keep up with the demand? Obviously, quick job, it's not a quick job business.
No, that's
for the
other
most
thing.
part.
Not a quick
it's
job
tough.
business.
There's a long tail on this work, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's another reason why, sometimes, you follow a lot of woodworkers on Instagram and whatnot who their main job is basically to make projects to post on Instagram. And my main job is not Instagram or my website or my YouTube. I don't even have YouTube or anything like that. It is building quality projects for customers. So there could be a month that goes by between when I post on Instagram because we are working diligently on making a product. We're not working diligently on taking pictures of it. So yeah, I mean, they're long format projects for the most part. I mean, we can, right now we're doing a cabinet, a pantry for a client, 2 or 3 week project, right after that, we're doing a breakfast nook and table for a client. That'll be 2-week project. But then we have a deck right after that that is probably going to take a month.
Wow.
Big deck. Yeah. So, but while we're doing that, we're also working on tiny little things here and there. But basically, we just kind of, unless I start hiring 5, 6, 7 guys, right now I only have 1 employee, and then I consider the CNC another employee. But unless we're hiring that many people, we're batching projects out, as quickly as we can.
Okay. I was going to ask how many people you have, but you and one other employee.
Yeah, one other guy. And he does good work. He's a little newer, so we're training him up. But yeah, he's good. He's diligent.
It's good. I'd imagine it's too much work and too difficult to do it on your own.
Yeah, I did it on my own for a very long time, and basically I got to the point where I was doing something, and I'd look over and be like, "Wow, somebody else could be doing that while I'm doing this." And once that happens, it's justification. So,
what have you learned? Like as we're muddling through the pandemic here, what have you learned about what people are looking for? Like you said, people are, business is sort of taken off. People are, I think, spending a lot more time at home looking at what they don't have or what they would like to have in the house. What's the most common thing?
I think the most common thing that people want is cabinetry. I think the pandemic has taught us, as far as woodworking goes, I'm not going to get into what else it's taught us, but as far as woodworking goes and being at home, I think people have realized a few things. Number one, I don't spend a lot of time at home. Now I do. Number two, I have a lot of stuff. I'm sitting here, I'm looking, I'm like, wow, I have a lot of stuff. And it might be stuff I need, it might be stuff I don't need. Either way, I need somewhere to put it.
Yep.
So a lot of cabinetry is being built. I would say a lot of what I'm getting asked to do is, we have this space, we have no idea what to do with it. We have all of this stuff, we don't know what to do with it. We need this to go in there, and we need it to be as hyper functional as possible. And what I provide to my clients is not only that, but I provide super functional pieces that wouldn't be available if you went and bought them at Home Depot. So very custom drawer sizes to fit very specific items, or very, very custom cabinet sizes to fit very specific spaces. And yeah, I mean, everyone's at their house and they're also realizing, wow, I really need to do this. I really wanted to fix this wall or do this. So in addition to the woodworking stuff, we also do a little bit of handyman work, because, sometimes we have long-term clients who every couple of years they come to us and say, now we're ready to do this project. But in the meantime, there's little things they want to do here and there that we help them out with.
Okay. So one of the things you said earlier that I wanted to jump back to, you had mentioned about not really teaching trades in schools anymore.
Yeah.
Did you take like a woodworking class when you were in high school?
Well, no, I went through day school. I went to Solomon Schechter Day School, and then I went to Chicagoland Jewish High School in Chicago, and they definitely did not have any trades.
No. Okay, fair.
We had our class. That was about the most we did.
Okay.
And listen, I can't speak for many public schools. I didn't go there. So, I mean, I'm sure there are schools out there that still have mechanic shops, that still have wood shops and stuff like that. But I do know the home ec classes and stuff are decreasing. I know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs literally has a foundation that is promoting trades because they are a dying thing. A lot of people don't realize that you can go to school for 4-6 years, get out of school, work as a grunt at a financial firm. Eventually you're going to be making six figures. A lot of people don't know that you can go to school for 6 months, learn how to weld, and make six figures within 6 months. Yeah. I mean, and the United States has a legitimate shortage of tradespeople. All of these plumbers that are older and whatnot who do really good work, there's no one really to pass that down to right now. And, things change over time, but the knowledge of how to figure something out, it's mostly just problem solving, the knowledge of how to figure something out. I get a lot of clients, and nothing on them. Most people, or some people, are not only do they not want to fix their toilet, it's not something that most people do, and that's perfectly fine. That nobody expects everybody to come out of the womb and know how to fix a toilet. Okay, so hiring somebody else to do that not only is good for the economy, it's good for that other person. It's good, if everybody did everything for themselves, we might have a problem. Yeah. But learning how to do things for yourself is not only good for you. It's also good. It is good for society, having dependable people, and that sense of satisfaction when you fix something or you build something is actually why I'm in woodworking. I'm pretty sure I'm addicted to that sense of satisfaction you get when something is finished or fixed.
And it is just cool to watch something go from pieces of lumber sitting on the counter or on the floor to these, beautiful finished products in somebody's home.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's always fascinating when you see 6, 7, 8 sheets of plywood, and 2 weeks later they're in somebody's house being used, as a cabinet. It's very fun to see.
It is very cool to see. So you mentioned your Jewish schooling all the way up in the Chicago area. Is there any specific way or particular way that you sort of infuse your Jewish values into the work that you do?
I think it's, in terms of infusing Jewish values, I simply have them and they follow me wherever I go. But, I don't bless every cabinet I make, but what I do have that I provide, a lot of my clients are Jewish. And I think, number one, they like that. There are not many Jewish woodworkers or tradespeople, let's be honest. The last Jewish woodworker was like 2,000 years ago. And I think a lot of people, for instance, I was just quoting out a deck the other day for not only a Jewish client, but super Jewish, an Israeli client. And they were very concerned about where they were going to put their sukkah. And I heard them talking about it, and I was like, oh, I'm actually Israeli. I went to Jewish school. I know what you're talking about. Now that I know you're trying to fit a sukkah in here, let's design it this way. And that was like done, sold. I mean, so I provide an understanding that some people wouldn't, and they'd have to explain it to somebody else, and they'd have to, there are times where, for instance, I will make a cabinet or whatever with a drawer that's a little deeper so that they can put sidurs inside, or they can put their talit or tefillin inside, or so I have an understanding that some people don't, which I think not only lends a little bit of comfort to my clients, but also they just don't have to explain everything over again. Right.
You understand. You're
right.
It's part of the culture.
Not only do I understand, like I said, they don't have to explain it. They don't have to. You don't have to explain to me why you want a drawer deeper for your tefillin or your talit.
Right. Well, that's got to be nice, and I think it can be. Those can be awkward conversations to have, also to explain what, and then but it's done. It's fine.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
and
Josh,
the yeshiva has contacted me, and we're doing some work for them, and we're discussing when I can come in to take measurements. Then that's not going to interfere with the davening. So it's something that I understand and know, and don't even have to explain or worry about it.
Well, that is very cool. Excited to see what they what they have you working on.
Some stuff for their sanctuary.
Very, very cool. Well, Josh Ferri, this fascinating conversation talking to you about what you do and how you do it. But before we let you go, last two questions. First, what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Favorite Jewish holiday? I have always liked Sukkot because it involves building. So I'm going to say that. Everybody loves Hanukkah, but I think Sukkot. I also just like outdoors and fall and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd probably have to say Sukkot.
And what is your favorite Jewish food?
I don't know if it's specifically a Jewish schnitzel, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And then kishki. I'll eat that till the sun goes down.
Excellent.
Especially in Passover.
Yes. Well, Josh Ferri, thank you so much for joining us this week on the show. Best of luck moving forward with your business. Obviously, you're very, very busy right now, which is fantastic. And we'll have links to your website and to your Instagram feed and your Facebook page on the article in the show notes. But thank you again so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.